And we are live. How's everyone doing tonight? Brian Kelly, nice to see you here. We're going to be talking about a lot of these researchers and technologies, including, Mike McCulloch and some of these other guys. Yes, definitely. So we're going to start with some history. The Manhattan Project. Arguably, when did the Manhattan Project start? It kind of, some say in 1946, that the history books kind of went back and said, well, it started with the Roosevelt letter, which was a letter that Albert Einstein and Robert Slizard, was it Robert Slizard? Leo Szilard, Szilard, wrote the Roosevelt letter to then President Roosevelt, basically urging him to look more seriously into this atomic energy business that was going on, and most specifically the experiment with the first nuclear reactor pile built by Enrico Fermi's lab over in Italy. And when the Italian physicist Enrico Fermi built had this first sustainable chain reaction of a nuclear fission reaction, that sent kind of shockwaves around the world in the physics community. The scientific community instantly became aware that, wait, we can really tap nuclear energy, and we're getting closer to unlocking some pretty interesting secrets of the universe and the atom. But we could argue that this realistically started probably about 1918 with Max Planck, who he won the Nobel Prize for discovering quanta. So this is a list of Nobel Prizes that have been won in physics, and it's super important to kind of go back in the physics literature and study this, because right around the 1920s is when Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr started publishing papers on the energy inside the atom and the energy inside of mass, the mass energy equivalence, E equals mc squared, and Niels Bohr's model of the hydrogen atom with the electron orbits and these quantized energy states that the orbitals could occupy. And lots of these other physicists jumped on to fill in the gaps of this atomic theory and figure out just what the heck was going on down there with these atoms. And then right in the 1930s was Werner Heisenberg, Erwin Schrödinger, and Paul Dirac, all winning Nobel Prizes for their work on the modeling that they did in the 1920s. With Werner Heisenberg with his matrix mechanics models of quantum mechanics, and Schrödinger with the Schrödinger wave equation model of quantum mechanics. And then moving on into the discovery of the neutron, which was key for Enrico Fermi's. There it is, Enrico Fermi, his demonstration of the existence of new radioactive elements produced by neutron irradiation, and for his discovery of nuclear reactions brought about by slow neutrons. So fast-moving neutrons slamming into things can up the atomic number and transmute elements to other isotopes, and realize that the slow neutrons that's a key to how nuclear reactions work in typical nuclear reactors even today. That's what went out of control in Chernobyl and caused the meltdown, and it's a key part of the whole nuclear maintenance process is the neutron shielding. So yes, the Nobel Prize winners. Yes, this is important because it's important to go back in history and look at the Nobel, the state-of-the-art developments that were happening in physics in the 20 years before the Manhattan Project, which began in 1941 or 42. Let's see, what was it? So it started actually in 1938 when German scientists Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann inadvertently discovered nuclear fission. So it was actually Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann working under Enrico Fermi's lab, I believe. So A few months later, they sent this this letter out, and research moved pretty slowly for the next 3 years until 1941, when the MOD Committee, essentially the British equivalent to the Uranium Committee, issued a report affirming that an atomic bomb was possible and urging cooperation with the United States. So basically, what needs to happen next is that a committee needs to investigate UAP technology and confirm that we can build space-time metric engineering, warp drives, using terahertz metamaterials, and that the government should fund and move forward with a actual project to research this. And if they don't, then someone else will. And indeed, I've been putting together after a challenge by Mick West, I've been assembling a lot of research on how things operate overseas, to show how the Chinese are ahead of us in so many technologies right now, and I want to show evidence that they're researching a lot of this stuff, maybe in secret as well, even though it's really hard to get, certain types of intel out of China. It's a very secretive country, but we know enough about. I'll dig some papers. We're putting together a whole list of stuff in the literature to really dig through that. But yeah, the science is the key. The science is the key to this, because you look in the 20 years in the Nobel literature of who won prizes and what they won prizes for in those 20 years before, and how that led up to what was being developed in 1945, and it would culminate in 1945, essentially, with the detonation of the first nuclear weapon at the Trinity test site. Yeah, they over 100,000 people worked on the Manhattan Project at its peak, enough to fill a small city. And there were 3 separate cities that were essentially built for the Manhattan Project. One was in Washington. One was Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and those were the 2 uranium refinery plants. And then moving into the Los Alamos, where the actual bomb was assembled, at the project where the physicists worked to construct the timing mechanism and do all the calculations for how to, just how to build one of these bombs. And the first one they built was this Fat Man style plutonium. It had a plutonium core called the Demon core, the size of an orange, and the explosives would basically super implode that with tons of force, causing this complete fission of all the fissile plutonium metal instantly, and releasing all that energy in a massive explosion that sent, I'm sure, shockwaves out into the cosmos, attracting all kinds of things to the fact that, there was intelligent species here that had just woken up to the atomic age. But we won't get into that. Let's just stick with the science and go fast forward a little bit. We'll go through and touch on some key points, because a lot of important stuff kind of happened between, the development of quantum theory and what we're working on today, where we're getting subquantum, we're getting beneath the atomic age, and we're going into the subquantum age, and really, picking apart how the universe is actually constructed on the finer levels. And 1952 is a key one, with Edward Mills Purcell and Felix Bloch. Edward Mills Purcell would actually head the CIA's Project Rainbow, which was their investigation into the entire mapping of the electromagnetic frequency spectrum, and figuring out how every frequency interacted with every different type of matter, and the science behind that. And that led to the discovery of things like metamaterials and the invisibility cloaks that, his decade or so of research out at Area 51 and for the CIA on a lot of these projects led to those discoveries, and ultimately led to the discovery of metamaterials. So that's a key important piece of the physics history. Moving forward a little bit further, we have Julian Schwinger and Richard Feynman and Tamaga. So Schwinger, Feynman, Tamaga, their development of quantum electrodynamics, QED. And Schwinger is a super interesting guy, and his career should definitely be studied by any serious physicist who wants to understand UAP technology, because Schwinger is the first person that calculated the actual polarization of the vacuum energy, which is about 10 to the 30th joules per cubic centimeter. And if you concentrate this much energy into the vacuum, you reach something called the Schwinger limit. And the Schwinger limit is key to how these effects are produced, with a decoupling of the vacuum and what we actually call a chain. It can actually, when you polarize the vacuum by pumping this much energy into it, it polarizes the vacuum, and what that means is that you get pair production, spontaneous pair production out of the vacuum. So you can create particles. If you put enough energy into this, you can create the mass equivalent of those particles from this polarized energy state. But you can also do what's called this polarizable vacuum effect. And what happens is that space-time is normally has something called permeability and permittivity of free space. And free space has a certain constant of permittivity, but polarized space is completely different in electromagnetism. And polarized space has a different permeability and permittivity. And if you polarize space the right way, you can actually create negative permeability and permittivity. So negative refractive index leads to a lot of really interesting nonlinear optical phenomena, including what are required to build invisibility cloaks, because you're essentially changing the speed of light in this local environment. And so the speed of light in that local environment, it can travel through the surface of this polarized surface faster than it would travel through the vacuum of free space. So you get invisibility and cloaking and metamaterial effects as a result. But it could also work to potentially, if we understood it, affect gravity and affect actually the space-time metric itself. That's the theory. That's the theory that these physicists are working on. It's actually a theory that Dr. Paul Hill came up with. And he was one of the first scientists, physicists to study UFOs for NASA, Dr. Paul Hill. And he wrote a book where he was hired by NASA to study UFOs. And he has a scientific analysis that he performed for NASA, and it was never published. His daughter found his notes and his notebooks and everything after his death and published it herself. All that was classified during his lifetime, and but she found his work and published it, and that's the only reason we know about it, because otherwise it would have been covered up by like so much of this history. In any case, Paul Hill came to the same conclusion that many other scientists who've looked into this can't come to, is that in order for these things to be possible, to fit the data, these things have to be warping the fabric of space-time somehow around them, because they take 90-degree turns at breakneck speed, and they do these maneuvers which defy inertia and our understandings of physics and reality. So this is basically the science. Let's go back to our Nobel Prize winners in our list. So it started with QED as a big step in mid 1960s, 1965. Moving along, not to gloss over any of these important contributions. They're just, we don't have the time to get sidetracked on all this stuff, but it's certainly a good history lesson for those of you that want to go down that rabbit hole. Then the unification a little bit further happened in the late 70s with some of this stuff, theoretical physics. But the real stuff, happened. Where's superfluids? So I have all this. So 78, 78 was also key, because this cosmic microwave background radiation and in discoveries in the area of low temperature physics. That was key. Then the next big one was 85. That the quantized Hall effect is definitely key, and also this superconductivity in ceramic materials. These guys, first yttrium barium copper oxide superconductors were developed by this team. Very key for a lot of the superconductor experiments that happened throughout the 90s, including the Podkletnov stuff. So that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for these geniuses. Thank you for your work. And then we have liquid crystals and polymers. This guy did great work on that. But the key stuff is superfluids right here. This guy, 96, these David Morris Lee, Douglas Osheroff, and Robert Coleman Richardson discovered fluidity in helium-3. They won the Nobel Prize for that. And then 97, methods for using laser light to trap and cool atoms and create condensed matter. And this was really when condensed matter physics started getting a lot of attention and really took off. And I remember this was a really exciting news even a couple years later in 2000 when I began school as a physics student. My professors were still pumped up talking about trapping and cooling and how we could basically do that ourselves if we had the right lasers and the right lab and stuff. Optoelectronics. This is the sign of the coming age. So all the stuff on semiconductors and trapping light, it's all related to what's been going on for the past 20 years. So we look back to the atomic age and what happened from 1918 to about to the 1930s. So for those 20 years, and now we're looking at this block of time from about the late 90s till about presently, the last 20 years. Or so. So this is super interesting, going through superconductors and superfluids. Again, 2003, huge jump in our understanding of the quantum and how materials work. The really cold and really small stuff, filling in these gaps in our understanding of this chasm of ignorance, so-called chasm of ignorance. And you can look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. So laser-based spectroscopy, again, optical coherence, these cosmic microwave background radiation, and giant magnetoresistance, broken symmetry of quarks. Again, this is all dealing with the world of the super small and subatomic physics. Again, for the discovery of the mechanism of spontaneous broken symmetry. And that spontaneous broken symmetry is exactly what happens at the Schwinger limit when you pump tons of energy into the vacuum. You get this symmetry breaking, and it can be used for warping space-time around the craft, according to scientists, legit ones. So this is where we're at. Graphene, some of these two-dimensional materials started becoming a real big thing in the 2010s and for the last 10 years. Groundbreaking experimental methods that enable measurement and manipulation of individual quantum systems, 2012. the discovery and theoretical discovery of a mechanism that contributes to our understanding of the origins of mass, Peter Higgs, the Higgs boson. So we now have the quantum behavior process in this system that gives us mass. So we can figure out how to take it away if we figure out this Higgs stuff. Again, light emitting diodes, they invented the blue. It took a lot of work to make the blue light emitting diode, but it definitely helped out a lot of stuff by doing that. Energy saving white light sources. Yeah, because previously you had to use high intensity discharge, bulbs like mercury or metal halide, and those require a lot of energy. So that was a key discovery. Again, in optics, neutrino oscillations, showing neutrinos have mass. Theoretical discoveries of topological phase transitions and topological phases of matter. Again, quantum physics and condensed matter physics, like ordered states. And that's related, again, back to what Purcell and Felix Bloch discovered with nuclear magnetic resonance. Gravitational waves in LIGO, Kip Thorne and Barry Barish. Optical tweezers, laser physics. This guy developed the optical tweezers, and these guys developed methods for ultra short optical pulses of real high intensity. So again, all this development in photonics and optics has been the highlight of the last 20 years of theoretical physics, including filling in some other gaps in our understanding of cosmology and stuff. But for the most part, you can see that optics and a lot of this stuff is pretty key. So we're going to dive into this stuff. This is a recent article on NanoWork, May 2nd, 2022. The era of optical computers operated by light is fast approaching. The demand is explosively increasing for computers that can quickly calculate and process large amounts of information. Recently, artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, drones, and metaverse technologies are drawing attention as core industries of the future. However, electronic semiconductor logic gates, which serve as the brains of computers today, have limited capacities in high-speed data calculation and processing and have disadvantages in that they consume a ton of energy and generate quite a considerable amount of heat. That's the argument against Bitcoin, right? Korea Institute of Science and Technology and the Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology, GIST, announced that their research teams, led by Dr. Yusun Pak of the Sensor Systems Research Center and Professor Gun Jung at the School of Material Science and Engineering, have developed an ultra-high-speed, high-efficiency optoelectric gates. This is what they look like. So they can use, these look like perovskite lattices, and they're on these two-dimensional films, and they're able to basically build and, or, and nor, and NAND, and NOT gates. And if you can build those 5 simple Boolean operators in your logic system, then you can build a quantum computer quite efficiently, just and possibly do it on the atomic level. And this is where we're headed. Most scientists know this and understand this. And if they don't, then they'll soon learn. But yeah, they're trying to develop ways to use this, BAASS perovskite. This is a Spiro to dad. These are some interesting different types of materials. So lots of good information in this article on, some of the developments in optoelectric engineering, and definitely something that you want to get into if you want to make a ton of money and be part of the future that builds these actual things and maybe get recruited into some of these programs that are going on. So this came out in 2005 by Princeton, and they discovered that quasicrystals could bend fiber optic signals at 90-degree angles without losing any signal quality, and that they were much better at, at using quasicrystals for junctions in optoelectric circuits. So quasicrystals are definitely an important part of the engineering process of alien technology, which would essentially function on this kind of stuff. I mean, I call it alien technology or UAP technology. I guess we can define these things as that. And yeah, what is UAP or alien? Why do I call this alien technology? Is because basically we're approaching the cusp of our technological peak. This is like we're reaching the engineering limit of atoms, and we're going to be able to build things on the atomic scale and control things on an information level that is so discrete and powerful that it can literally process real world information in real time and warp space-time and warp that spatial information through the space-time metric in real time and more. So we're talking about technology that is literally, space age. It's it's next level, it's next gen, it's alien, it's UFO, it's all of this stuff. And it's the whole about the art of taming and stopping light, ultra slow and stopped light. This won the Nobel Prize too. Len Howe and some of these other scientists from Harvard who trapped light to a halt. They actually stopped light in medium. This is all related to what we're able to do with these quantum systems that will be able to literally take space-time and bend it at will. And quasicrystals actually came about in the birth of the atomic age. So the first quasicrystals that were ever discovered were didn't even know about them until later when they went back and looked at this stuff. But basically, every time there's a nuclear detonation, every nuclear explosion that's ever happened leaves behind quasicrystals, which telltale information about, whether it was a plutonium core, whether it was a uranium core, and it will tell you how many megatons and how much energy was released in the detonation from the type of quasicrystals that were formed. So it's a super interesting thing that was, I don't know when they discovered it. I think it says about 40 years ago, Steinhardt, then student Don Levine, first realized that a quasicrystal, which has ordered but not periodic structure, might be possible. But they weren't discovered until the 1980s, I think 84, by Daniel Shechtman, of Technion Israel University. And people have pointed out another interesting connection that Daniel Shechtman, the guy who discovered quasicrystals, actually did his postdoc at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So he could have been exposed to some interesting technologies there as well, as part of a reverse engineering effort, because he had the material science background. And people question on whether or not that he was brought in and shown certain things as part of a joint cooperation effort to share research and technology with our allies, so to speak, our so-called allies, right? So let me just move along here. What else do we got going on here? Oh yeah, I was researching some stuff on Chinese research and development into the same stuff, and you'll find that all this academic literature is being studied by Chinese scientists at a rate of about, I don't know, I'd have to sit down and calculate like all the go like through all the papers and really find out how many are. It's not just how many are being published, but the quality of them and the research that's being done, because the Chinese universities are all up to date on all this stuff, and they're so into. They know that the next generation, all their chips are made over there, and not all of them, but that's where the majority of our chips are made. So you don't think they're on to the next level of what's going to replace current computers, with these optical computers, then you're out of your mind, or you're just not paying attention, or you don't have the mental capacity to understand what the heck is going on right now. But backscattering, so they're building. This was in Cambridge University Press. They're building metamaterial coated spheres and measuring the backscattering off them. So there's already research that's being done, which you could apply to, a tic. This is like a tic tac experiment, but on a sphere. We might as well cover a tic tac shaped, styrofoam ball with a metamaterial, and run some backscattering, cross sectional form analysis as well. I mean, this is interesting because a lot of this light stuff started back in 30 years ago, really, with a lot of this coherent research and coherent light stuff really took off 30 years ago in the classified world. And we know that it was classified, and it was, they were classified scientists interested in it because John Wheeler published a paper on Frank Condon effect and squeeze state physics as double source interface phenomena. So he wants this squeeze states are important because it's basically this whole idea of that you have the Schwinger limit and you have energy that you can pump into the vacuum, but you have your potential and kinetic energy. You also have your momentum, and you have your position or your energy state and time, depending on how you approach or look at the problem. So it's this issue of we're called Dirac holes or Dirac hole. Dirac holes are like the empty gaps in the on the surface, but you basically get you pump a surface with tons of energy, and you create these high and low spots in there. And at these junctions, different things can happen, and different effects can be created on the quantum structure within this surface. So if you order the pairs differently, or these cones to make different types of structures, you get different effects, and those are still being studied and understood. They're called these whale points, and there's some interesting new research on quantum complexity, where they're trying to solve this wormhole paradox, the EPR paradox, and the way that they're able to solve it is with this quantum entanglement or Einstein-Rosen bridges. And this Einstein-Rosen bridge, this is a little. So the Einstein-Rosen bridge is basically it's a wormhole throat, or a wormhole opening, and the way that you can create or open one of these theoretically is through photonic coherence and also space-time, coherence. So if we break down the Schwinger limit around on the surface of our craft, say at the top of the craft, we could theoretically, cause this polarization to culminate so strongly in the space-time right at the tip of the craft that it will open up. It would open up essentially a wormhole, or a negative void in front of the craft that the craft could then fall into. Much the same that we fall through space-time now because of the same effect that's being created through quantum physics, which is responsible for gravity and through entanglement. According to the current theories, I like the current theories of entanglement gravity, and that entanglement definitely has something to do with quantum gravity. So let me see what else we got here. Oh yeah, that was the Pentagon's UFO debris list. So this was key. So the Pentagon has released a number of FOIA requests on And the first batch can be found here on this page. This is Anthony Bergalia's site, UFOexplorations.com. And that article is one of the more popular ones on there. It's not hard to find, but if you need links to this, you can check this out. But the Bergalia FOIA, Bergalia is one that actually got his name. No, his name's not. It was Steve Aftergood. But this metallic glasses, so there's all these Defense Intelligence Reference Documents, or DIRD reports, and they're basically Defense Intelligence Agency did investigations into UFOs and came up with all this stuff: glass forming alloys, metallic glass. There's one on metamaterials. There's ones on quasicrystals. One's on warp drive. There's ones on stargates and all kinds of things that the Defense Intelligence Agency explored. And these are all written by scientists and have lots of really great footnotes here for the scientists to go through and follow, for people who love to do deep research. Metallic spintronics, again, the spintronics thing, dealing with nuclear magnetic resonance and these coherent states of these coherent spin states, and what happens when you get these spin states aligned and working together on the quantum level at ultra fast speeds. It can process the information around the craft at lightning speed. And the essence is this stuff was figured out. I believe a lot of it was figured out, but we just didn't have the metallurgy or the material science or really the understanding to build it back then. But these theoretical scientists of like John Wheeler figured out a lot of this stuff. And he came up with this whole theory on quantum information theory, which is this whole it from bit. Like, well, if everything's atoms on a small scale, like can't we just reduce it to information and find, like if we could get a processor or a screen that worked fast enough, we could just change the information or rewrite it. I mean, you can't like physically rewrite it without taking it out of the universe and then putting it back again. But you could essentially maybe take yourself out of the universe and put yourself back again if you surrounded yourself with a bubble of these negative energy states, or a Schwinger limit polarized vacuum around your entire object. It's kind of an interesting idea, and there's some serious physics backing it up, and there's tons of money and research that's been done into this. These are so-called UAP technologies, for lack of a better term. I mean, this is the Pentagon's own documents, Let's take a break. Hey, you guys are watching the Alien Scientist channel. We're talking about the history of the Manhattan Project. We kind of went over that, and we're now talking about the science that's leading up to UFO technology, or the next generation of UAP technology. And this is I got a ton of good comments. Thanks, good stuff. I hope you've been okay. Still word working. Can I do construction? Yep, I'm still doing that. Still kicking butt. Join the technicians. Hey, Esoteric Gold and Ganja Cat. Yeah, I wanted to show you guys this. So Mick West, our favorite debunker, was on. He quoted Elizondo, of course, staying with that limited hangout disclosure narrative. I think there are pockets of people in different agencies who are enthusiastic about the government studying UFOs, said Elizondo. Why, if it's really such an obvious big deal, why isn't the entire military focused on this epochal situation? That was Mick's snide response. So I responded with this. Well, let's rewind the clock 70 years and replace UAP technology with atomic technology. This would have been Mick West in 1943. Well, if atomic energy is really such an obvious big deal, then why isn't the entire military focused on this epochal situation? Completely oblivious to the Manhattan Project underway. Dun, dun, dun. So, yeah, that would have been the skeptics or the shills narrative in 1943. There would have been the Mick Wests out there saying that, yeah, this is baloney. Anyone who talks, in fact, I want to mention that during the Manhattan Project, there was Operation Mockingbird was started basically by the OSS, for the Manhattan Project. The OSS, this was before the CIA, the precursor for the CIA, the OSS, the Office of Special Services. They put out press releases to all the news agencies and New York Times. They had a list of banned words. You know what the list of banned words were in 1943? Atomic, fission, nuclear, all words to do with the science of atomic energy were banned from newspapers. It wouldn't get past the editorial board. It wouldn't matter if you found you wanted to do an article on some science that was going on over in Europe at some lab. They wouldn't even publish it. It was blacklisted. It was completely blocked out. So you weren't even allowed to talk about it. I wouldn't doubt that there were like the Mick Westies of the era that were, screaming that, oh, you're nuts if you even talk about this to any kind of alternative news agency that wasn't in the loop, that didn't get the memo, that accidentally started talking about, hey, they're doing something over here in at Oak Ridge, or anything like that. It was completely blacklisted from the media. They wouldn't let you publish it. They wouldn't let you talk about it. And I'm sure, if this stuff's going on today, much like me, commenting about this, it's not getting, I get 23 likes and Mick West gets 182. It's like I'm not getting shown in the algorithms. They're boosting me down. They're thumbsing me down. In fact, you go on other accounts, you can't it's like you scroll down and my response here will be all the way in the bottom here with where you have to scroll down to the bottom on the thread. You ever do that where you scroll down the bottom on the thread and then you have to keep clicking through until you see all the hidden comments? It's like they hide that stuff. I wouldn't doubt this stuff's going on today. In fact, Elon, the fact that Elon he bought Twitter instead of buying a SpaceX division to study warp drive, makes me a little suspicious. I think Elon, if anyone's doing it, they would have probably, hired Elon, and he might even be, being the cover, which is why he's not talking about it, or not, he doesn't ever mention it or something. I think the research might be, have given to, it was originally given to Bigelow Aerospace, and they were considering Bigelow Aerospace for a lot of these contracts, but Bigelow was he was a front, and he was really trying to get his hands on the UAP technology. He had built, Bigelow Aerospace had built that whole laboratory to receive debris and receive parts and analyze, UAP technology and stuff. And it never went went anywhere. But because they never got the contracts, or maybe they did and they didn't talk about it. I don't know. There's lots of controversy surrounding Bigelow, but I don't think they got the contracts. In fact, they kind of messed up their contract with NASA and then it went belly up, and officially they laid off all their employees, last I heard, and they don't actually do anything anymore. But they were involved in, BAASS and AAWSAP studies to look into UAP technology. And so these studies that were done under this program, it's an interesting list of technologies that came out of this Stephen Aftergood FOIA, and that was made popular by George Knapp and some of these other guys. But, they were looking into number 5, advanced space propulsion based on vacuum space-time metric engineering with Dr. Hal Puthoff. And this is real stuff that they were looking into: metallic glass technology, warp drives, metamaterials for aerospace applications. We saw that one. We saw a lot of these. These were unclassified. This one, materials for advanced aerospace platforms. That one is classified. Was classified. That one's an interesting one. Dr. Williams, Dr. J. Williams of Ohio State University. Platforms is the interesting key word there, because a lot of these craft aren't called, spaceships. They're not called airplanes. They're not called aircraft. They're called platforms. The other key stuff is this laser Lightcraft. That's very real. That was started in 1980s with Lake Marabou at Rensselaer Polytech, and it's related to Magnetohydrodynamics, where they can actually take the fluid of the air and move it using electromagnetic fields, including directed energy weapons, lasers that blast. Literally, they blast the air in front of the craft and cause a vacuum to open up in front of the craft. And that's the basis for a lot of this hypersonic technology, and how these hypersonic missiles work is they basically blast this high energy pulse in front of the. Oh, I can't even show this. I can't show the video, or I'm gonna get flagged. They don't like that. Fair use. This is for educational purposes only. Please do not flag my video, you stupid algorithms. You know nothing. Stupid YouTube algorithm. Anyways, yeah, that stuff's super important if you look into the magnetohydrodynamics and some of the work that was done by Lockheed Martin and these air breathing propulsion and power systems for aerospace applications. Really cool stuff. And then, of course, all the stuff on quantum computing and ultracapacitors and energy storage and that kind of stuff. Interesting stuff. Although I think these optical circuits, we will be able to store way more energy in these optical environments than we ever thought possible before, especially once we figure out how to create a stabilized, polarized vacuum. We can pump tons and tons of energy and just keep pumping it in. Quantum computing and utilizing organic molecules and automation technology. Yeah, self-assembly, organic quantum computing and stuff like that, because the idea is that our current quantum computers are, the Chinese are way ahead, first off, and they're doing some really amazing things with the computers that they're building over there. And
高斯波的采样这个实验当中呢，构建了一个量子计算的原型机，可以比目前最快的超算
100,000 times faster than the world's fastest supercomputer.
就相当于我这里算1分钟的东西呢，用
It'll take 100 million years for that to finish the calculation that this thing can do in a couple seconds. So the advantages of quantum computers are so next level that it's beyond. It's a step forward and way forward beyond. So yeah, the blockchain for quantum computers is going to be, I mean, they're going to be able to hack the blockchain if we don't it's going to be crazy. So yeah, there's all kinds of threats that people oppose. The whole billion-dollar economy could crash because of quantum computers if they were able to hack Bitcoin wallets, and just all the Bitcoin just got stolen by some Chinese lab with a quantum computer one day. That's funny. Yeah, this is lattice-based cryptography. Cool stuff, man. Good to have you here with some interesting. I love when we get people engaging in the audience. I might open it up after an hour here, another 10 minutes, and let some people on here. But yeah, these quantum computers, man, once we're able to build a skin of the craft into a quantum computer, where literally the skin of the craft is a quantum computer, it's going to be able to warp the space-time around it. And with these negative index materials, these negative refractive index stuff, and there's some serious business here. So yeah, now where are we, man? Like, how are we going to get from where we are right now? I would compare it to maybe 1937, 38. So we got some, not quite the same thing going on over in the other side of the world. If anything, we've got some issues with corruption in our own government and a lot of the governments around the world. And that's why I think this needs to translate government, and it can't be run by government or run by any of these corrupt political puppets in power right now. It really needs to be run by the scientific community and be like a community global effort to advance our technology to this limit. Because realistically, it's like, what are we going to do with this? We're going to save humanity, or we're just going to destroy everyone? Or are we going to destroy it? Like, what's the goal here? What are we trying to do as a species? What are we trying to, accomplish realistically? Are we just trying to like get as rich as we can before we die and feel better about ourselves than everyone else on the planet? I mean, it's going to have to be run by the government, man. It's crazy though. The government's got such big problems with bureaucracy and everything that's going on right now. So you have this top down effect where people are afraid to speak out or do things wrong because they just don't want to lose their job, and they're listening to the wrong people and following the wrong ideas, and they're not speaking out. The engineers aren't speaking out because they're just afraid they're going to get laid off. It's really needs to be, there's so much bad management too in the government. Like, if they're not, I almost think that there is got to be programs researching this secretly. And then, you get guys like the top scientists. And I don't know if you can find this anymore. You might have taken the tweets down, but let me see. I have the tweet saved. I'm going to find it. Hold on a second. I have the tweet saved, and I'm going to bring it up because I screenshotted this specifically. UFOs. There it is. Nope. Sorry. It was not that guy. That guy has never disclosed a damn thing in his life. Fake, false disclosure is all that dude's about. Oh my God, please tell me they didn't delete it. I had it. It might be on my phone. I think it's on my phone. Let me look for it on here. But Manhattan Project 2.0. Let's look up Manhattan Project 2.0. Just search for it on Twitter. There were some tweets that were about this, and by a very famous scientist in this field of research, and he basically, put it out there that there's Manhattan Project 2.0 going on. A lot of the stuff's going black, a lot of it's going dark. Don't be surprised if videos like this disappear. You're lucky you're watching this and have access to this information now, because this is basically like this is basically like 1937, 1930, and I'm talking about, atom bombs, and that we can build an atom bomb. Guess what, guys? Here's some of the physics behind it. We have this thing, uranium. You get these super heavy elements, and you get enough of them in concentrated form with the refinery, and then you blast them, and we could maybe get enough energy to cause a sustainable nuclear chain reaction that would release a ton of energy, according to this E equals MC squared principle. And if I was talking about this in 1937, it would be cool. I'd be like, all right, you're in the clear. Nobody really, this isn't like hush hush yet. Nobody, nothing's really started up yet. But if you talked about this in 1941 or 42, 43, you would, there'd probably be a little bit different. So don't be surprised if in the next 2 or 3 years, this stuff like this just disappears, and people like me might, be working for projects where I can't talk anymore. Heck, they could offer they might offer me a job tomorrow. In fact, they damn well should, and I would take it 100%. Right now, I don't make any money off this channel. Like, I haven't got a super chat in a decent one in months, and not that the super chats that they take some money too out of that, by the way. It's YouTube and everything. So I'd much rather prefer people send me Bitcoin, and I can, if you want to send me money, you can send me, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. I'd much rather that. And but I'm fine with money. Not really do this for the money. I really do this for the disclosure and for the information, and to get this science developed and get it out there. But I tell you what, I'll work for anyone who wants to build this and do it. But I'm not going to sign NDAs, and I'm not going to sign my right to speak away. I mean, I feel like it's going to be taken away regardless. I feel like they're just going to, I feel like they've already taken my voice away, because I have 100,000 subscribers, and I should be reaching I used to reach way, way bigger audiences. And now I no longer reach those large audiences. And I swear it's because they're they're limiting this information. That it might be doing it geographically. It might be just that, the people in other countries are, like, you'd look up alien scientist in China, and it says, we'd not heard of this. You can't find it because, or something. I don't know. It'd be interesting for somebody out there in other countries to do a study and take video and show me. But yeah, I think it's going to pay off this regardless, because this research, we're already getting people interested in investing and funding stuff, and we're getting closer. There we go. Thank you, Morning. $2 super chat. That's awesome, dude. I appreciate the help, man. Every little bit helps. Bingo. Yes. So this is, scientists are people, and therefore corruptible as well. I mean, I like doing construction. I like what I do, but man, I would really love to, move on with my life and make a ton of money and retire someday. Because I tell you, I ain't retiring on this salary right now. All my money goes into research and disclosure. All my free time and goes into this channel and doing this stuff. So yeah, Project Daedalus. I think, we can't name it, Manhattan Project. Maybe we'll name it because I'm in Boston, we'll name it a suburb of Boston, like the Dorchester Project. Great work. Thank you for the $5 super chat, AL Warrior. I'm glad you enjoy the content. Timcast mentioned me the other day. Yeah, well, guess what? I've been talking to Ian, dude, and I'm going to go down there and get on the show again soon, because it's been a year, and it's time to boost this channel up in the algorithms again. Once I go on Timcast with all this stuff, it's really gonna take off, because I want to really get on Timcast and talk to them all about everything we just talked about tonight. What's going on with the new Manhattan Project? What's the technology? What's it all about? Where is it at right now? Well, it's about trapping and squeezing light and pumping tons of light into these quantized energy states until you get vacuum breakdown, and then also trapping the light and redirecting and taming, stopping and slowing the light, and redirecting it using junctions like quasicrystals and other types of optical photonic circuit gates to build optoelectric circuits that run on light and push photons around instead of electrons. And it's fast approaching. And you just think about what this is going to turn into in another 50 to 100 years. When you look at how far we've come in the last 50 to 100 years with the science of atomic energy since the Manhattan Project. So yeah, this is cool stuff, and I want to open it up to open lines now that we're at an hour. And here's the StreamYard link if anyone wants to jump on and join. I see we got Falcon Space. What's going on, Mark? We got a couple other people out there in the audience. Yes, dude, the rabbit hole, Timcast. Yep. Yes, guys, jump on. Here's the space. Here's the link. And who let the docs out? That's what's up. So another thing I want to talk about. I mentioned, right? So someone early on in the stream, right in the beginning, one of the first comments was about my buddy Mike McCulloch. Oops, I'm trying to find Mike McCulloch. Yes, Mike McCulloch, and or Mike McCulloch. I think it's McCulloch. In any case, he's got an awesome theory called quantized inertia, which not everyone agrees with in the physics community, but that's all right because he's got DARPA contracts and he's got a bunch of research that he's doing over there in the UK. And he made a comment. He made a comment a couple months back, and I love quoting this constantly because right here. So he keeps saying this too. I'm subject to NDA, so please contact IVO because people are asking, asking for more details, and they're like, "Can you share this? Can you share that?" And he's like, "No, I can't because NDA." And but a couple months back, I heard some real excitement out of him, and he basically said that his tweet was that good news in this industry. He's like, I have some really exciting things, but I can't talk at all about it. He said, in this industry, bad news travels fast, and good news has NDAs. So I love quoting that. I quote it all the time. Let's add some other people to the stream. What's up, Quantum, USX Quantum, and Falcon Space?
What's going on, man?
Dude, so we've all saw you commenting about the quantum computers in the chat and some of your stuff on quantum computing and stuff. So is that what you're into?
Yeah. I'm into all of it. I've looked at this stuff for years. How long's your channel been around? Since like 08?
Yeah, 08 I created it.
Dude, I started listening to you back then. I was young. I was like 16 at the time. But I love that, and I was into conspiracies and everything, and just kind of on and off checked your channel out. And man, it's just crazy.
I know, man. Everything that's going on, it's like, why isn't this in the mainstream news? It's like, it's crazy, dude. Just do what I did. Go in the military and permanently injure yourself and then live off disability. It's hard, bad. Everyone shouldn't do it. Oh God, man. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're with what we're doing, it's they got a programming language on quantum computers of Microsoft's Quantum Development Kit, and we're actually making a blockchain on that.
Oh, nice.
So it's gonna be pretty fun, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so they're already like a step ahead, that's how you gotta be. You gotta it's like the NSA with A team and B team.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But yeah, I love this channel, man. You talk about UFOs and everything awesome. It's pretty cool.
There should be more channels talking about this stuff.
Y'all get into like the real details on it, and I love that. Like, it's amazing. Like, you want to figure out how it works, and really I do too. It's all those bases, everything, all that's real. It really is. Like, I live in Dallas, and I've heard stories people talk about just various things working with contractors and everything that have actually seen these places, and it's real. As crazy as it sounds, you remember back when Dr. Deagle talked about it, and Phil Schneider and all. It's all real. It's just insane.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, I mean, I don't know how much of it it's all real. I won't say everything's all real, because it's like there's some stuff like, like you have the Project Stargate stuff, for example, right? So all these CIA documents on time travel and stuff, and mind reading, mind control, and all this other stuff. How do you know? Like, it's just because there's CIA documents on it doesn't, necessarily mean that it's realistic technology or something that's real. It could have been put out to like as Cold War propaganda against the Russians and stuff too. So there's that, but then there's this. I just try to stick with the science and see like, well, what can we reproduce and recreate, and can we do this?
I'm meaning like real as in like UFOs and everything.
But the UFO phenomena is like, it's 100% real, and it's crazy that Congress and other serious people are just totally ignoring it. Like, oh yeah, this isn't real. Like, yeah, we don't have to pay attention, or if it's real, it's not that important. It's just, it's just misinterpreted weather phenomena like swamp gas over Venus, or seagulls, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Leslie.
Oh my God, there she is again. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey.
I feel like we're in a bit of a lull in like the UFO community right now. There was this big peak last summer, and then it slowly like just tapered off, and everyone just like went back to their lives, and things slowed down, and things are starting to pick up again now.
Yeah, well, they're going to pick up a little bit more, I feel. Once
there's always this week in June. There's like a week in June where all the news just dives into the UFO story. I think it surrounds like the Roswell Festival or something like that.
Well, that's July.
It's July?
Yeah, July 6th is Roswell.
Yeah, but I started to get a feeling that there was a week in the middle of the summer that I remember every year there was lots of news articles about UFOs just popping out on across mainstream media, and everyone starts talking about them. That's right when you remember when we went to Alien Con? It was right around that time. I think that was June.
Yeah. Well, June, July. Yeah, I guess the summer is a good time for it. So yeah, it's going to be kicking off here in the next few months, hopefully.
I mean, in 2 weeks from now, we have MUFON coming to PA. I'm going to be there. Maybe setting up a booth for APEC. If you want to stop by MUFON PA, it's right outside of Philadelphia. Pretty nice hotel too. Nick Pope is going to be there in person, and Travis Walton. There's a couple speakers. It's pretty much a one-night event, so just stay one night at the hotel, and they come in on Friday, and Saturday we can do APEC. APEC is going to be that weekend. We're not having APEC this weekend. There's been a lull in speaker availability for APEC as well. So we're starting to move toward a every 3 week and then 2 weeks sort of program with APEC, just because of the availability of speakers. I told Tim I don't want to go toward the free energy folk and all that stuff. We want to keep it just to the propulsion. So like as the speakers die down, we might have to move toward a monthly APEC conference.
Yeah. Maybe I got to get my presentation. I've been working on it too. I've been putting it together. I did a ton of work on it today, so hopefully I can get that around soon. Nick Pope. There's a recent article about Nick Pope. I don't know if you guys saw it in the Mirror.
He's been busy.
Seagulls could be alien spies sent to watch us. You know, a UFO expert claim.
Why is Nick Pope?
Look at this. There's a whole bunch of people that commented on the post too with this birds aren't real thing. It's like this whole conspiracy theory that all birds are surveillance drones. They're not even real. I know.
Did you see that video of the? There was a flat earther who spent $20,000 trying to prove that the Earth wasn't round, and he built this gyroscope system that was like super sensitive, and it detected that the Earth was round because we were rotating in reference to the universe, and his gyro was rotating once every day.
Damn it. Well, nature's a hard thing to fool, man.
I wonder if they have any, there are no birds theorists out there who will start dissecting birds.
Well, this is an example of a Chinese spy drone that looks like a seagull. So, they do have these things. They don't
need them. They just have our cell phones. We gladly carry around with us a spy drone.
No, but some people, not everyone uses a cell phone.
Can you count 5 people that that don't use a cell phone? Yeah, I know like 1 or 2, but
yeah. My kids.
No, come on.
Man. All right, you got me. But hey, the thing is, right? You know what black is, right? You know what happened. You know what it means when you go black. If you're in the if you're an intelligence or a spy, it means you don't carry a cell phone. So, I don't know. When you're operating as an agent, it's kind of like a double life kind of thing. So you technically leave your cell phone behind and go do what you got to do. Go meet up with your source or go to your dead drop or whatever you're.
So what do you think about MUFON PA? You're going to come down there?
MUFON PA, huh? I could drive down. Maybe I can see if we'll see if Dan Beckert wants to go.
Yeah, we could do a little meetup there, and
maybe Steve Cambion. He's over in Pennsylvania too. I should have him go. He could confront some of these guys.
No, we could have an after party Friday night.
Yeah, maybe that'd be cool.
There's a speech there that I thought was pretty interesting at 7:30 on Friday about electrical malfunctions connected to UFO events. I think that would be a great presentation to bring onto APEC, because that's digging into the technology behind it.
Oh yeah, UFO Jesse Peak at 7:30 on Friday. Yeah, right here. Interesting. Yeah, that sounds cool, man. We should go film that and broadcast that, especially the Q&A, because I'm sure we could between me and you, we could come up with some real good questions for a guy like that.
MUFON, though, their Q&A is 5 minutes.
Oh,
they don't do it like APEC.
Maybe there's after party. We'll have to rely on the after party. But that sounds pretty rad. What do you guys think? Should I go? If I get a $50 super chat right now, I'll go. How about that? Oh, jeez. Also, they won't allow nukes in space. Aliens shut them down.
That's true. Guys, where's the super chats? Get alien scientists to MUFON.
Get me to MUFON. I have to miss a whole week of work.
He needs to goof on.
Goof on. Let's move on to goof on to move on. By the way, goof on is originally Gene Huff's nickname.
Yes, goof on. That's from the Bob Lazar book.
Yep.
What do y'all think of Bob Lazar?
Oh, dude, you got $100. Let's go.
Oh my God! $100.
West Side
Let's
Warfare.
go.
All right, you
That's
serious?
it. Sign up, buddy. You should get the hotel first because they got a great deal on it. That's like a third
I
of the
don't stay at
price.
hotels. I bring a tent and stay at a campground. $25 a night. Hell, I don't pay the hotel.
Well, the hotel is like a third the price if you go through the link. If you get it on their website, it's like $350.
Oh, guess what? A campsite is about a fifth of the price. So,
yeah, come on. The whole event's happening at the hotel.
Peace out, man. I'll sleep in my van. I'm dead.
West Side Warfare, dude. Get on.
I ain't Hillary Clinton, man. I don't got to be in the friggin' put up in the Ritz.
You come to the lab, you're put up in the Ritz.
Yeah.
You're put up in the alien room.
That's it. Ritz Carlton. That's it. I mean, 5 stars.
We have a little alien gray alien night lamp.
Yeah, they'll show that it looks like the secure team. 10.
Oh yeah. I want to show that.
Is that where you got it from, right? Because you saw where he got his. Because it's the same one that he uses. I swear. Thank you for that.
Secrets.
Chat. You guys are awesome. Yes, do the show from the tent, dude. Party tent. I'll bring my. I swear I bring like a generator. I bring a little battery generator and stuff, and I hook up. Nice. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, we hook up the lights. I got all these little light shows and stuff in the tent. It's fresh. Stream it.
How cool is that?
Cool. Camping site in Philly is the street. Yeah, there's probably one right nearby. Sweet. Seeing? Okay. Oh boy. All right. Yeah, definitely May 13th to 14th. Yeah, and down in MUFON. This sounds like a plan, dude. We can stop by Pittsburgh and go see the Liberty Bell.
Pittsburgh is quite a bit farther out.
Philadelphia, Erie, PA. Now, all right. So where is this actually? It's in West. It's
near Trenton. It's a little bit north of Philadelphia. Closer for you.
Trenton, PA.
No, Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh, dude, Nate, dog. Thank you, man. $50 super chat.
Put in Bucks County, Sheraton. Bucks County. What?
Bucks County.
Sheraton.
Sheraton.
There it is.
This one?
Yeah.
Bucks County. Oh, look at that. Fancy. Oh, there you go. King sofa. All right, maybe we got enough super chats. We will actually, get a hotel room. Oh, they got a hot tub, fitness center, indoor pool, meeting space, dry cleaning service.
Dude, we're gonna have some beers with Travis Walton.
Yeah, that'd be cool. God, I'd have a beer with Travis Walton. Oh, USX Quantum, you didn't have to do that, man. $50. Fire. You're already in the show,
nothing,
dude.
man.
You don't need this. You don't need the platform super chat boost, dude.
That's good.
I
did it for you.
Okay, that's a round of beers for Travis now.
There you go.
That's it. We're gonna get him nice and drunk and ask him about the fire tower. Sneak it in there. Oh man, the spotlight and the fire tower and the generator and the whole crazy other story. Anyways, yeah, I don't. Let's. I can't wait to ask about that electronic stuff. That's gonna be super cool. All the interference stuff, because I remember hearing about cases and stuff, and there was that whole. Remember the episode of the Twilight Zone where they just shut everything off, all the electricity. The UFOs didn't even have to attack; they just came in and they shut all the electricity down.
Yeah, what I think it is, or
They literally, like, everyone was fighting. They all the cars shut down. None of the cars would work, and none of the electricity would work. And that's all they did is the UFOs came in and just shut everything down. And then people just started going crazy and accusing each other of being the problem. And like, it just started like a full chaos and war, and everybody was just fighting each other and like starting to kill each other. And they turned the lights back on, and they were like, it was a crazy episode. I forget which one it was, but
yeah, Jeremiah was talking about this earlier, but there is there are certain effects associated with warp fields where electronics conductors start behaving more like resistors, and eventually they become dielectrics. So basically they lose their their ability to conduct electricity. Like the electrons are just being sucked out of the system until there's nothing left to conduct. So that could be a possible explanation for why most of our electronics stop working. Some of the more basic stuff still operate, like the older cars. The engines would still run while the headlights wouldn't. I guess it has to do with the voltage and how much current you're actually passing through. Because if you have high enough voltage, you can pass it through a highly resistive wire. So the ignition is running, car will still run.
That
The newer cars are affected much more strongly.
that ignition on the older cars are like super insulated.
It's not about insulation though. There's no way to insulate against this. Just distance.
One of the UFOs I saw once flew over a substation near me, and it popped really loud. I remember the next day when I drove by, there was a bunch of guys working there.
oh,
So that's
power
always
on.
something. Yeah, it's always something that's like really fascinated me about it.
I got another $20 super chat from Ark Scott Oden. Thank you for the $20, $19.99. I want to do a rolling of the dice. So if everyone wants to, it's time to roll the dice and guess the number between
37.
1 and 100. Pick 1 and 100. 1 to 100. 37. Mark's got 37. I got 17.
63.
What do we got here, guys? Let's see how close everyone can come with your clairvoyance. I'm going to roll it in 3, 2, 1. And the number is 48. 48.
I was one number off on each digit.
Too late, Buckeye. I swear. Oh, we got 49. Ricky Mitchell. Damn close. Pretty good. Simon Claret, you were 85. It's almost 84, which would have been 48 backwards. But no. The winner is Ricky Mitchell. Close your eyes. 22. I was wrong. Was not 17. Buckeye Jim. Oh, Buckeye Jim is the winner, but I feel like he was a little bit late. He rolled it after. What's this dice roll call? I don't know. We're just guessing a number. It's just a test. We do it like once per episode just to see if people can get close with their clairvoyance. We're testing that stuff. You know what I want to do? I want to do an experiment, and I talked about this, like where we get like a system where it's very sensitive, like a hypersensitive magnetometer, or a like that hypersensitive sensor that they built in that remember they did the BBC thing on Project Green Glow, and they had Ron Evans on there, and they went to that lab at the Ministry of Defense over in the UK, and they had that super sensitive quantum magnetometer. And I want to get like something like that, and we'll all sit there and we'll try to like focus it into one state with our collective psyche, and see if we can do it.
I actually have a tool that can do that.
I want to see if we can do it. Like I'm like and we'll do like a live stream and see if we can do it, and see how like perfect we can do it. I get it.
Do you remember years ago? I don't know if this is what you were talking about. They said that they had something that monitored like background radiation, and when 9/11 happened, it spiked really high, just based off of consciousness or something.
That was the random number generation.
Right, the random number generation.
Okay. I remember there was two different ones. There was that one and something else.
So let's find that.
You know, another interesting phenomena.
The Princeton random number generator that predicted 9/11. Boom, here it is.
Wow.
Wow. Did you ever hear people who can feel solar outbursts, like CMEs, as they're hitting Earth? They could like feel it in their psyche.
Huh.
There was a big one today. There was an X1.1 today. Solar flare.
Weird, man. It's weird. You know about like, you ever hear about like how you say like when people are talking about you, you hear ringing in your ears?
Tinnitus.
Our microwave auditory effect. It's like you talk too much about the CIA, they put ringing in your ears.
Yeah. Your guardian agent starts kicking in.
Yeah.
I've met him. Yeah. No, that shit's real.
Oh, really?
So the Havana syndrome? Yeah, you don't think Havana syndrome?
Tapped by Havana syndrome. I'm 1000% sure. I saw them driving off, and then they sent another car to monitor us, and we scared them off and took pictures and everything. Yeah, very real.
Hit squad.
It hurts too.
Oh yeah. Mass psychogenic illness.
Like a year later, I was playing around with the RF equipment in the X band, and by accident irradiated myself a little bit, and it felt very similar. I think it's probably just an X band microwave laser, a maser.
Think X-band microwave, yeah, something. And this was around the time that you were hanging out with that source from NASA, right?
Yeah. She got hit really bad. I heard so bad that it melted the window in between her and the Havana syndrome device.
Do you have the window still? Like
they have the window, yeah, and they reported it to the FBI.
What?
Yeah, that shit's very real. And the FBI is looking into it. I mean, they're at a loss too. It's not white, government project. It's either black project or it's secret space program kind of stuff.
It's not secret space program. So I want to clarify what it is. It was called MK Ultra Subproject 68. And MK Ultra Subproject 68 was, Donald Ewan Cameron, had run this whole project called MK Ultra into, mind control. And it was an overlap between MK Ultra and Project Rainbow, where they were trying to map the electromagnetic frequency spectrum. So they were trying to find frequencies that were active, psychoactive frequencies, or biological, active, biowarfare frequencies. And there was a ton of research that was done into this, apparently, during all throughout the 1960s.
That's when the research was done, but they turned it into a weapon, or actually hitting people with it.
Yeah, they think definitely did at some point.
Inside your brain, there's neural pathways. Those neural pathways are usually about 3 to 4 inches long. So when you're getting hit by RF that resonates with your neural pathways, you're basically frying your brain. if it's too long, it won't resonate. That's why microwave ovens 2.4 gigahertz. That's that's more than a foot.
I think it's almost comparable to watching an hour of David Wilcox, of how much it fries your brain. Sorry.
Dude, that guy was pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, that was really bad. His original episodes on Gaia, though, those are pretty good. At least the parts where he wasn't talking.
Yes, or Alex Jones. If you watch Alex Jones.
Oh, Alex Jones cracks me up every time.
I did a poll on Twitter and I asked who would make the best minister of truth, and everyone voted for Alex Jones. Because they up in a ministry of truth, apparently, the Biden administration. They now have like a disinformation censoring department for the government. It's like, come on, how close can we get? Like, Orwell warned us about this, you people. This is not good. But and everyone, everyone voted Alex Jones should head the office. Oh God, it's funny, but it's yeah. So I asked, by the way, about Tim Pool and stuff. I told Ian, I was like, hey, dude, see if you can, like, because I missed Alex Jones and I missed James O'Keefe by like a couple days when I went down there. I would have been there at the same time. I would have been able to meet them. So I said, make sure next time I go down, Alex Jones is there, so I can meet him and like do a podcast and hang out with him.
Dude, that would be awesome.
Maybe when you come.
Dude, imagine getting Alex Jones on.
Oh, so Jeremy,
so awesome.
On the 15th at midnight, there's going to be a total solar eclipse here in on the East Coast, and I wanted to run some experiments based on what's his name, Bob Greener's last presentation. He said that certain metals will crystallize in a different fashion when you have a three body alignment, meaning Earth, Moon, and Sun. So we wanted to try that. There's actually several experiments that can be ran during a total solar or lunar eclipse to see these effects.
Interesting. Yeah, so there's an unsolved problem in physics called the three-body problem.
Wasn't that solved in the 70s? That's how they got the Voyagers out?
It is still one of the prizes. There's a prize out if you can solve the three-body problem in quantum physics. I think there's a special case solution. No.
Oh, is this similar to that goat analogy? The goat on a rope, circle within a circle?
N-body problem. So it's more than three-body problem. So it's I think it is. No, so this is where I go for where you want to, like, if you want to figure out list of unsolved problems in physics. This is my favorite list of unsolved problems in physics. Boom. So, yep, quantum information paradox, quantum gravity. This is like where you're gonna find all the stuff that you need to study to understand UFOs. That's basically like that map of the map of physics. There's this, if you look up the map of physics, right? There's this giant area in here called the chasm of ignorance, right? And in here is the future. Once we fill that chasm, we're going to have quantum gravity, dark energy, dark matter. Of course, in a lot of these new theories, like quantized inertia, Mike McCulloch's theory, there's no such thing as dark energy or dark matter. In fact, there's no evidence for that other than the math and the holes in the math and the theoretical calculations and predictions. There's literally the evidence that they've cited for it can all be explained away in terms of other things, other physics. You don't need dark energy to explain any of the experimental actual observations that they've had regarding dark matter, or alleged allegations of what they deem as dark matter, or the detection of dark matter. It could all be explained with other physics right now. Again, this chasm of ignorance, if we fill this in and tie up quantum mechanics and general relativity, this is where we're going to have this is where we're going to find UAP technology. But let me find that 3-body problem. I thought it was on here. I thought that 3-body problem was a I thought that the 3-body
the math.
They recently solved it. They might have solved it in the NAS.
Jeremy, I think it's more of a math problem.
But anyways, I want to know more about how that 3-body alignment thing relates to the alchemy. Essentially what would have to be
Let's see if I can find the link.
Is microgravity, right? Because it's an effective microgravity. It's essentially an effective microgravity. If you need to have this 3-body alignment to make this thing work, then it's obviously something to do with microgravity or perturbation alignments. I don't know. Anyone have any other theories on why, if I had a quantum experiment or like some alchemical, weird chemistry experiment, it only worked when the stars were aligned in the right way, how would you explain that in terms of physics? Just say we had that experimental proof that this experiment we're going to try in the next couple of weeks when this alignment happens. We get the data to prove it. How would you explain that? So,
Jeremy, I just posted it in the chat.
Again, thank you guys for the super chats to help me out with the trip down there. That was super helpful and awesome, guys. I very much appreciate that. Yeah, the microgravity. So microgravity, another thing that we really need. We were talking about this for the lab, me and Mark, recently, about what we need to actually build this stuff. So we're like, oh, we need a huge, the biggest bell jar you can get, an 18-inch bell jar, and so we can run these vacuum experiments, because we got to build a vacuum chamber to run these vacuum experiments.
Vapor deposition, baby.
I was like, well, really, realistically, we need like a huge vacuum to really do vapor deposition the way that we need to get these layered materials, to get these
18 inches is more than enough for the lab here in Hawthorne, but
I know we can build like a small tabletop experiment to do like the proof of concepts and stuff. But when we're ready to build the craft, we realize we have to go to space. Like, we have to do this in outer space. There's no way you could build a vacuum chamber big enough and have the right conditions set up. And obviously, if aliens have a station where they're a foundry, or whatever you say, a ship foundry where they're building these craft, it's going to be in space, dude. It's not going to be, on some planet somewhere in a giant complex vacuum chamber that they built. They're going to do it in space, dude. It's just easier. It's makes way more sense. So we're going to need to go to space and use not only the vacuum of space, but the microgravity environment of space. And it turns out NASA has already done a ton of research into, growing protein crystals and experiments in crystal growth and microgravity. And, these first 2 links, when I looked up microgravity crystal, that's all I typed in. The first 2 things are nasa.gov. So this is, and I remember seeing this in an IMAX movie back in the day when I was reading about, quasicrystals and some of these other types of materials that only form in these microgravity environments of space, where you're in complete free fall and away from other bodies. the influence of other celestial bodies. These very, very strange types of crystals can grow that ordinarily wouldn't grow because the microgravity messes up the formation of the crystal structures. So yeah, this is another super interesting for the future of this. But yeah, we should definitely try to get this vapor deposition and this crystal growth things working in our own vacuum chamber experiments, and also try them during these alignments to test this microgravity theory.
Jeremy, I posted a link in the chat here on StreamYard of the exact experiment that they're talking about. This is from Bob Greener.
Yeah, they could place atom by atom with these, again, those optical tweezers that won that Nobel Prize. Those optical tweezers are key. I have not heard any word on the Air Force operator that was arrested he just got out of prison, federal prison, probably a couple months ago, February or so. He's probably hiding low, probably can't talk, but yeah, it'd be cool to get someone to talk. I'm gonna make a trip out to there at some point, out to Wright State. So maybe I'll do it before too long, because the semester is ending here shortly. So, or maybe we'll have to wait till the fall. I don't know. Cool to kind of go out there in the summer while no students are there, though. We'll see. I'll keep you updated on that. It's worth it right now. I just don't have the there's no way to bring the metals back yet. Yeah. Simple idea. Remote viewing. Solar. You do remote viewing. Hey, again, guys, I'm gonna open this up. This is open up to an open chat now for people that want to talk about UAP technology. How it relates to UFO technology. I mean, how it relates to the atomic technology too, because we had the atomic age with the Manhattan Project, and what's going on now is very similar. SuperCon 99, welcome. You're live.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So go ahead, shoot, man. What do you want to talk about?
So I always I always had this idea that, like, when the universe expands, everything moves towards like 0 point energy, to where like the very first particles that existed came out of a Bose-Einsteinian condensate, like the Big Bang, where it's all homogeneous mixture. But then for like a split second, right, the spectrum of the periodic table was just strewn out like paint across just a wall, right? And that's what the periodic table feels like to me. Like when I look at the periodic table, I think, here's this set of very simple interactions, and the more complex it gets, the closer you get to like actual energy. So whenever you start getting into the side of the periodic table that has, radioactive material or material that can't exist in a natural environment, like at room temperature, you start, like, the further up you get in number, you have to do more and more modifications to into the environment to even allow them to exist for even a picosecond, where they're actually observable just for a split second before they disappear again, because they can't congeal into matter or take up space without the environment meeting the right conditions, because the environment has to be closer to pure energy, because the closer the elements get to pure energy, entropy rips them apart at room temperature. But if you can cool down room temperature closer, or if you can heat up room temperature, different elements become more visible at different states. So, like, eventually it feels like the only reason that you can make elements observable is when you make, like when you get in like the mid 200 range, you have to like make the environment kind of match it, because if they're too far away from each other, they rip each other apart. Because like all matter is moving towards entropy, and it can't be created or destroyed. It's like the two laws of thermodynamics, the first two. But like, it feels to me like we're starting to get close to elements actually being part of consciousness, which is kind of like a divisive topic in the science community, because you've got on one side of the world, scientists say that the brain, like in the mind, ends where the brain's mass ends. And then you got this other dogmatic preaching science where they think that the brain exists and is projected into the environment. So it doesn't actually stop at the mass of the brain, but like the brain actually is part of the environment. And I feel like the brain is part of the environment. We're all part of collective consciousness being made of conscious energy. And I feel like the reason that radioactive material isn't visible at room temperature is the same reason that like the electricity riding along our central nervous systems isn't quantifiable on the periodic table yet. So, and that's actually like one of the most important discoveries in science is the double slit experiment, right? Because it lets you know that like, yes, when you're observing something, it changes states into a waveform or back into like taking up three-dimensional space. So that's one of the things that brought me to this conclusion. But also like the double slit experiment lets us know that every atom knows if you're looking at it or not, which is one of the things that adds to my theory that, or the dogma of science I like to entertain being a possibility, even though it's against dogmatic philosophy of the 10 dogmas of science. But like, it does make, I do enjoy entertaining the idea that the brain does not stop at the edge of the matter
Is
that
that
the brain's mass
consciousness?
takes up.
The argument is it consciousness that's causing it, or is the observer effect just the interference of a third dynamic system into the equation?
Right, but like all DNA is inherent in the source code, or we wouldn't have, because you can study like protein synthesis, and you can explain all day, like Dr. Rupert Sheldrake. I go on a limb and quote him sometimes from his banned TED Talks, but like it's like saying that you can explain, all scientists can explain all of science, but you just give me one free miracle and I'll explain the rest. Like this Big Bang. Like nobody can actually answer what happened before. What it could take more energy than the entire universe contains to ever discover something outside of our closed system. But I feel like eventually the universe is going to expand to a point where things do go back to that wave. Like when you get to 0 Kelvin and atoms in those experiments, when they were experimenting with Kelvin states in the 70s, and they did experiment with a leaded jar, and the elements disappeared because they lost their three-dimensional properties and reappeared in the table that they were testing on. So they actually like disappeared because they became waves and they vibrated, they slid in between the atoms that made up the containment of the surface. And they recongealed once they heated back up. They were able to recongeal back into three-dimensional space. They actually found the elements by scanning the table. They reappeared in the table like traces.
Yeah, it's super crazy. Like the superfluid that they had in the ceramic container, it would just fall through the ceramic container.
Yeah, but then that means that like as a wave particle, that proves that wave particles are still affected by gravity. So my theory is that eventually when the universe expands to a point where it either goes gray and everything is homogeneous in a mixture, or if it can go far enough away to where 0 Kelvin is at the edge of the universe, it could mean that we're in a state of constant expansion, that the universe is always expanding, even when things lose their three-dimensional properties at the edge of the membrane and then become back into waveforms. And then in fifth dimensions, if all of this, if everything exists in a single point in space, then that means in the fifth dimension, all matter loses at the edge of the universe where the membrane stops. And remember, like in fractal geometry, when you're doing fractal math or Riemannian geometry, like you can have these different shapes and manifolds collapsing on each other, but unless you're actually doing a calculation inside the shape itself, it's outside the domain, and it's like dividing by zero. Like you can't provide a location in empty space. So like think of it like that you've got like the entire shape of the universe, but when you measure something outside the universe, it's outside the domain. So when it's outside the domain, it like disappears. It can't exist, right? So my theory is that I made this up. I didn't read this anywhere. This is my theory. My name's Doug Donnell, and I want to say that this theory I came up with is like once it expands to a certain point, all matter loses its three-dimensional properties, is still in a state of expansion, but then when it becomes a wave, it reappears back at the center of the universe, and that the Big Bang could still be releasing new matter at the center of the universe.
Well, here's the other idea, right? Because think about this too. Like you said, as you pump more energy into these things, right? The electrons fly off, and you're left with the nuclei. And you pump more energy in, the nuclei kind of like will turn into these quark-like things. You pump more energy in, you might get back to this point where time begins, where you can literally revert, like almost go back to that energy state at the beginning of the universe where energy is being created. So you might be able to pull energy out of the vacuum if you put enough energy into the vacuum at one point and bring it back to that point.
Well, that is what I'm saying, though. I agree with you. That is the concept I'm trying to convey here, is that as the universe expands towards the right side of that model, it's a very simple model, but in 3 dimensions, if this was a sphere, as that energy becomes more complex and reaches the edge, once the heat death applies to it, it's still moving in that same direction. But then once you lose 3-dimensional properties at that exact moment, the entire outside of the universe is expanding from within itself. That all 3-dimensional particles lose their 3-dimensional properties, turn into waveforms, and then immediately reappear because of the 5th dimension. Everything exists in one point in space, and then continues releasing energy because they then immediately go back to the center, and then immediately get excited back in that immediate state. Because you got to think of omnipresence anywhere in the universe. You're
everywhere in the universe is the center of the universe.
That's what I'm saying. Is that with that theory, it like I just want you to entertain the idea. I'm not really going anywhere with getting you to think like me, but I do want to share that idea because
I love it. It's great, man.
Because if you're constantly expanding and then you disappear from that expansion because you're no longer in 3D, but you're already set in motion, then the vacuum is always there. It's always pulling outwards.
You're at that inflationary moment of
yes, but then once you're all the way out at the edge of the universe, you would then lose your 3-dimensional properties, become a wave, not be created or destroyed, be still pulled back towards gravity, and then reappear in the center of the universe and become part of that expansion all over again.
Boom. What if you could connect 2 points and make them the same point in the universe? That's what we got to do next.
Well, that's adding new dimensions of time in layers to the 5th dimension and in extra-dimensional layers. So like if you go to that, like the 8th dimension, look this up, like the E8 shape. Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah, Garrett Lisi and all that stuff. Yeah.
So like they say that photons are actually spheres that exist in the 8th dimension. And the only reason that we're able to see them like rotating like springs, they look like a spring, like a helical pattern. They move, photons move in spring-like waves when they move. And it's because we are in the 3rd dimension. Like you were talking about that mathematic research guy. I forgot his name.
Garrett Lisi.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's also quantum gravity research group that talk about this E8 model, and but yeah, he's like the surfer dude, and he's got a cool website that you can actually like play with the E8 model and do all this. Like, here it is, right here. So you can actually like go on here and it's got the whole E8 model programmed into it, and you can like rotate it in different hyperspace dimensions and stuff.
So the way they're modeling this is they take the 3rd dimension and then they use current mathematics to create the 5th dimensional models using 3-dimensional variables. And then they're able to derive the shapes of the 5th dimension by encoding them in the 5th dimension. And then they do derivative models of 8th dimensional concepts. And they're able to use derivatives to formulate what particles are and how they move in the 8th dimension.
This is awesome, man. This is like some far out stuff, man.
So imagine, and this is what a lot of people on Joe Rogan's podcast that do DMT come back and talk about experiencing, is that they say that the entire universe, when they see it from that perspective, is made up of spheres. That spheres make up the entire universe, every particle. And Alex Gray and Allison Gray will talk about when they realized that they were each other's one, like they're soulmates. They were at a there wasn't really a convention, but they were at an event, and when they did ayahuasca together, they said they were brought out to like a single thread of existence. And in their minds, they believed they were witnessing like strings, like of the universal mind lattice, that is the energy that all creation is in the sacred geometry, that is making up these lattices and these arrays of content that we're able to perceive, that the cortex is wired into to be fed raw data. So what the model is saying for light, for us to be able to see light into third dimension, they're saying that eighth dimension is photons, that it's made up of what photons actually look like. And if you do the math, you do the derivatives, and you decode into the fifth and translate that into the third dimension, what you're looking at, everything that we see is a shadow of actual reality. That the photons that we see in the third dimension are actually shadows of the eighth dimensional models, which are infinites of spheres touching each other with the least amount of wasted space in between them, which is where bubbles, like when you look at bubbles like in a broth, if you're boiling something on the pot, or if you're like looking at froth out of a lake, when you see bubbles that are spheres touch each other, they congeal into hexagon shapes, which is where all the hexagon honeycomb like structure patterns are made as shadows. Whenever we see light refract, or we can see photons refract onto each other, or overlapping planes of perception of photons overlapping each other through one visual reference point, right? But whenever the planar surfaces refract over each other, you can start to see like spheres or a bouquet or different shapes in the light. But what you're seeing is just different bended refraction points of what eighth dimensional photons look like. So if you imagine an eighth dimensional fractal, or a eighth dimensional photon being a sphere, and imagine them touching a two-dimensional surface, okay, like a vivisection, and we're only able to see it at one point in space. That's what we're looking at, is like you put a planar surface against a sphere, and you're only going to see one point of it. Hey, what's up? But if you can only witness one point of the sphere, then you're looking at a derivative of the sphere from that dimension, and then we're only able to see one point. But since the spheres are constantly in motion in cyclical patterns, we see spirals when you add the dimension of time to spheres.
I love what you are describing. And would it be applicable to take it into a toroid shape almost, that for the universe, in that it's both expanding and disintegrating at once?
Well, the toroidal shape, I feel like that's our central nervous system, because we've got an input field and an output field. So I believe in the toroidal shape being applicable, but only as far as like I can perceive consciousness. They didn't show any toroids. It's like every shape is applicable. You know what I'm saying? Because within those spheres, they're able to create vacuums, Riemannian manifolds. They think there might be wormholes existing. You can like look up Riemannian manifold real quick in a Google image search, so you know what I'm talking about. It's like this Riemannian, Riemannian, Riemannian geometry is the name of it, and it's
Riemann geometry.
Yeah, these guys.
Poincare, Riemann, and who's the other guy? Sophus Lee were like the founders of like a lot of that math, and that stuff was amazing work.
Well, every measurable point outside of the space that three-dimensional shape takes up is
I caught your
outside of
name,
it.
Doug, dude. Yeah, I got a $2 super chat for you, man. He said, "Dude, get this guy's contact info and bring him on more." So I definitely gotta have you post some. I'm gonna have you send me an email in the private. I'll share that with you.
I will admit, I know Doug in real life, and he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. I've known him for years.
He keeps saying that.
Oh, dude.
If there's one thing I got down, it's imposter syndrome.
Thank you for joining, and everyone, as if you want to reach out and get in touch and get involved with the Manhattan Project 2.0, I'm in touch with some of the scientists that are probably going to be involved with this, and we want to build a dream team. So get in touch, and we're going to be here talking about it as much as we can until we're shut down for it. Pushing disclosure here, so get on board, and let's get, like, because Congress, man, none of these congressmen or senators are even paying attention to this stuff. They have no freaking clue. It's like, how do you reach out and resonate with these people and like let them understand? Like, how do you get through to these people? And we need to have like a community effort to figure out, because if there isn't a Manhattan Project going on right now, there damn well should be. And there's no one better qualified to run it and start it and operate it than this community right here. So get in touch and let's do this. And yeah, Doug, one thing, Crypto Alchemist just joined Bernard, and there's an eclipse coming up on May 15th, which is that 3-body planetary alignment. And I know that I wanted to know if you'll be running any experiments.
Yeah, absolutely. And through like my research now in the ancient alchemist science and the astrology aspect of it, I'm going to try to go out to there's what's called Canada's Stonehenge. It's about 75 kilometers from me, so about 50 miles from where I live, Omak, Alberta, and it is a 5,000-year-old stone alignment that well, we'll see. Some interesting things should be observable there with which you said there was a 3-planet alignment in this wow, brain fart right as you focus on me. The moon.
Is there another one? I know there's the moon or anything. I don't know if there's another alignment that's happening. I don't know if that needs to be, but I said mentioned 3-body alignment, which would be the
3-body. I got you.
That would be the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon, which are the main,
And it's a full eclipse, right? So it should be pretty good. And it's like all of the occult and the esoteric, they extremely value these astrological alignments. So there's got to be something more to it. And
do you guys want to hear something? When you're done, like let me have the floor. I don't want to interrupt for sure.
Yeah, so basically I'm just going to go out there, try to live stream if there's coverage, take my telescope, monitor on the horizon with the stones that they have, any planets that align to it, and film the moon as it goes through the eclipse.
Oh, that sounds awesome. For real.
Nice. Yeah. What do you have to say about this and this whole idea? Anything? Or is
I don't necessarily want to say anything about this idea. I want to share an epiphany I had recently so that you can all like entertain the idea and take from it what you will, and not necessarily. Just keep in mind I'm as open to ideas as I know you all are, but hopefully this will change your minds and the way you view things in the future, to where you can change some of your experiments knowing how the mind affects reality. The mind has a profound reaction to the environment, and through my 20s I lost my faith, right? And then I wanted to try to prove that God didn't exist for myself. It was the idea of trying to find truth in myself, and I could not find truth in myself when I realized that consciousness bridged the gap beyond the mind, right? And then there's like the layers of microbiology or biology. Is like the first law of biology is that a cell cannot exist without having a cell been created before it. Like no cells can exist without a cell coming before it. And that includes the Big Bang. So it had to have been encoded in it.
Yes, right. That's
For that to
something
be.
that is so key that people don't. That's a flaw with the modern Big Bang is energy can't be created or destroyed. So it had to come from some sort of parallel or alter dimension or universe from that Big Bang to have been created in the first place, right?
All right, you guys. So like I've lived alone almost my entire life. That's where all these thoughts come from. I didn't have anybody telling me I was an idiot when I was growing up. Because I didn't have anybody to bounce my ideas off of. So like I was just in the woods, just letting my mind go free without judgment. And I'm 36 now, so like 36 years old, dedicated my whole life to the study of esoteric things, and I've read so many religious texts, not 100% all the way through, but I mean I've read the Bhagavad Gita and the Holy Bible and the I Ching, the Three Palms, like Tibetan works, like I just read so much. I definitely most recently, just I mean like a week ago, everyone like had this crazy epiphany where I was thinking about the way um, that these spiritual leaders worked, right? And they all had like an area of the earth that they kind of gravitated around. And you got like your Muhammad and your Buddhas and your different tiers of consciousness, like a godhead all the way down to like a shaman or a guru, right? But these are people who collectively wanted to know the people, right? So that when you make these connections with people, you're able to answer questions when you're in a guru state of consciousness. You can go and ask this guru about his community and who will answer you. And it will be the truth, but he will be connected to the Akashic libraries. He won't give you the truth from his personal experiences. He'll give you the will of the people because he's spent so much time letting the will of the people flow through him and answering them as a spiritual leader, as a guide, as a community leader, that he can extrapolate information from his local environment because he's plugged into the source of all consciousness in that area. Okay, so he's plugged into it. He or she is plugged in. Like you can ask them a question and they will channel the answer based on what the will of the people, because that's what kings are supposed to do. They speak for the will of the people. But these are different echelons. These are different tiers of thought. These are like the individual in like a root chakra form, and then you have the word chakra itself is also triggering to people because it's actually just a in the science words it would just be a bundle of nerve endings that all provide one function. So you're actually in Western science, we don't have any different words for the central nervous system other than the central nervous system. But in Eastern culture, they have a word for the survival mechanisms, the fight or flight response coming from the base of the root chakra. And then you go up into the perineum and past the the solar plexus and your sacral chakra. These are all different things that lead to different tiers of consciousness. But once you go out the crown chakra, you get these different tiers, right? You can become a guru. You can flower out into becoming a shaman or like a witch doctor or a Buddhist or a Tibetan monk, like a player in part of the collective consciousness. You kind of give your consciousness up to you can provide to that consciousness by allowing
Jeremy,
it to
do you
live in
mind?
your free will.
Sorry to interrupt. Jeremy, do you mind pulling one up that has the actual frequencies of each chakra aligned with it? Because there are some that I've seen that have that, and I'm very interested if it's actually the same light wave spectrum as the colors themselves.
They are. The colors themselves are what allow you to bridge. So like when you think about the third eye, what they don't teach you is whatever you're doing these meditations, you're supposed to imagine the toroid shape, right? Like you were talking about. Well, the body mimics the planet's ionosphere. And that's where you get the toroidal shape at, okay? Because it's the ionosphere. It's anything that can interact with like the four large forces of nature. You're going to be part of this ionic network. And when you think about the connection through your palms, like Buddhist palm healing, it's through the green, the heart chakra. It's your connectedness to everyone else. So you can make this big network. And that heart chakra even is the symbol of the Star of David, or like the overlapping tetrahedron in a three-dimensional shape. And if you look at like the Merkaba, or like the chariot of ascension that's mentioned in the Kabbalah, the mystical interpretation of the
Tetragrammaton,
Old Testament, It's actually a 3D fractal landscape generator. And whenever you imagine like the tetrahedron shape, the pyramid on top of an inverse pyramid taking up three-dimensional space, whenever the triangles in those pyramids are dissected into multiple triangular pyramid patterns, you can vivisect and cross section those pyramids into more and more pyramids until it becomes so complex it forms like a sphere, like a fractal landscape generator. And if you imagine it, you can and this is not me saying it's true. This is me entertaining the idea of these philosophers and what they've documented, what they actually wrote down in the 10 Sephiroths in the study of the 10 Sephiroths as in relation to attaining the chariot of ascension, is that if you can pass enough purity tests and you can love enough to expand your mind enough, the 10 Sephiroths of the tree of life would bring that up.
So those, you were saying that those are the spectrum of colors, and then that those were also all of the solfeggio scale frequencies too. So is each color of light actually one of the solfeggio frequencies?
Actually, if you want to get down to it, I'm gonna have to like send this to you from my phone. But yeah, I could try to. Any of you have a way I could send you something through social media?
We can post it in the private chat, and then we can open it up.
Okay.
And well, it's also fascinating and a coincidence there, as you see Tesla's 3, 6, and 9 as the base, the medium, and the crown chakras too.
Yeah.
3, 9, 6, 6, 3, 9, and 9, 6, 3 there. That's
So
very
those
fascinating.
369 is something I should even like. I would say you should even use it in trading. So like look for three tokens that are, or three tickers that align with the monthly, and then align with the daily, and then align with the hourly. And you can have like 9 total, and then pick 6 of those that are the best out of the 9, and then you pick 3 of those that are best out of the 6, and then you just watch those with 369 and just stochastically reduce the amount of probability until you're projecting from that set. So like everything can be divided into that 369 mentality if you want to like increase your chances of success with something. Just make it less and less finite in your approach, and you can reap greater rewards on the output by reducing the amount of collision on the input. But yeah, what I was saying was that if you look at the toroid shape, okay, so like if you bring up the chakras of the body, they look like a donut shape, but imagine a donut shape that's twisting inwards on itself. In the center, imagine it like a black hole would be, right? So it would just be spinning inwards on itself. And then imagine a second donut existing on top of the exact same spot, and make it move outwards from itself, for sort of like center rotating forwards, center rotating backwards behind you. And that's what chakras do. They rotate forward and they rotate backward in both polarities simultaneously. And when you imagine that chakra being in the base of the pineal gland, which is literally the shape of a toroid in a crystal shape, it's the most advanced crystalline structure in mammals, the base of the pineal gland, the calcite microcrystals, the base of the cerebral cortex. That extra dimensionally connects you to quantum perceptions. And when you look into the world through your quantum eye, that's what bridges the gap. It's that toroid shape. And for the third eye,
microtubules.
yeah. And those microtubules are physically connected with your surroundings because your central nervous system gets it nauseous on the environment. Everyone, like I'm saying, like you're literally feeding off of it because these fields are trapped in the food. These fields are trapped in the water. These fields are being ripped apart by your body. You're literally churning through the environment, becoming one with the universe through these microtubules. And what they don't tell you when you're meditating, when you get to a master level meditation of the third eye, there's a single focal point that they don't tell you. Okay, this is crazy, right? I don't know if you can curse in here or not, so I'll try to keep my language to a minimum.
Oh, we're
but
fine, dude. I like no holds barred, dude. Someone's like, what would
Okay.
Dr. Sheldon Cooper
Okay,
say
dude.
about this, dude? I would
So-
have Sheldon Cooper on here and make him take some DMT on the show and then talk about all this stuff. That's
So-
what we do here.
So when you use your third eye to change the environment, to modify your environment, you're limited by the scope of your own reality, limited by the scope of your projection. The inward reflection of how much you love yourself will have a direct effect on how much you can love the world around you. And love is connectedness. So the constitution of faith, I can quote like Boondock Saints for a minute, right? It's not like how far you're willing to go. It's like, do you have the constitution, like the will of faith to go as far as is needed? Right, because that's what Duce was saying to the brothers right before they went to go make a mess of things in town, right? Like they brought the M92 Berettas out and shit, like so awesome. But you go back to like what I was talking about with that third eye meditation. I am trying to build symbology, right? To like get everyone who can hear my voice right now to imagine taking your third eye and imagining out of your toroidal shape. You're going to look,
visualizing and manifesting it.
well,
correct?
you have to draw a parabolic arc the shape of a toroid into another person's third eye. That's how to connect to people when you're subconsciously talking to them. Like if you want conscious control of the central nervous system, you have to draw a parabolic arc in a sphere, in a circle around whoever you're talking about. And when you do that, the way that you make these mental arcs and connections is through expanding your ionosphere and encapsulating someone else in it. So that the two of you now have a conjoined toroidal spheroid shape that's happening subconsciously, and the two of you are joined as one in this
Connecting
universal
on the
mind
same
lattice.
wavelength.
That's how you're able to identify with the other person's frequencies in those chakras, and you can have a dramatic effect by imagining yourself in that moment during that meditative state while conscious. You can imagine each of your chakras in your palms like they're tuning forks, and whenever you shake your friend's hand, or if you're with your significant other, like when you're first dating, right? And you remember that feeling of like holding the person who you like this is so juvenile, but like imagine that moment when you first hold hands with someone that you're interested in. Both of your hands are shaky. You're like the twitchy tool guy in the tool videos, right? Like you're uncomfortable in your own skin. You kind of like twitchy, right? And you got the shakiness. That shakiness is the two people like tuning forks trying to find a way to resonate within each other. Right, and the light body starts at the calcite microcrystals. There's three things in quantum physics that allow things to exist, and those three things are vibration, resonance, and sympathetic harmony. So like vibration has to be a static entity, even if it's like a complex number, right? You can have a number existing all the way out to infinity, but it could still be just a single number, like a single complex number, and that would be encapsulated by represented in the body by these calcite microcrystals. They don't change. They're a static, they're a complex number. They go off into infinity, but crystals don't change. They're procedural.
Sorry,
So,
I'll
like-
be back in 5 minutes. I didn't want to interrupt you, but
Ventril says that's just called anxiety, bro.
I love that, by the way. It all ties together for sure. But like
Another word for it, man. What is anxiety? You know, why do I get like anxiety attacks sometimes? It's like this. It's because like you're not in resonance. You're not like in tune, and you're trying to find out a way to resonate or get in tune. Maybe. See it.
so I'm not gonna digress yet. The point hasn't been made, so I apologize for how long it's taking, but it's a big setup because there's so many concepts involved in this.
Signals. This is what I know. Like, how can so if there's a signal here, like how do we amplify it? We transmit it, you know, or detect it. You know, that's the big thing. Yeah, biophotons might be one method. Biophotons are super interesting.
Are you talking about the signals from the alignment? That's the current topic of evening.
Well, all this, dude. These are all signals. All these frequencies.
Oh,
Signals.
yeah. Okay. So here, like this is what it is and how to attain master level control of every chakra. So this is like my life's work, just laid out for everybody. Like, you just do whatever you want with it. But as a person, I stand here now thinking every moment like this. Like, ever since I learned about this stuff, every new idea I've had since then has been completely changed. And it's realizing what I was. And like, in realizing what I was, I had to reanalyze the whole human body in terms of quantum theory and quantum mechanics. And the three things that allow quantum particles to exist is vibration, resonance, and sympathetic harmony. But even though that's a simple term of quantum, like, I'm a very complex organism. So what are the things in my life that I can attribute to being why I can understand quantum mechanics? Like, what is it that allows me to theorize? It's because I'm made of quantum particles and materials. And I'm seeing the world because DMT was released into the pineal gland at the base of the cerebral cortex, born into a world where the extra dimensional frequencies were able to talk through a calcite microcrystal. It's part of our biological structure. And those forces of nature flowed through a crystal that's unique and identified only as us, and allowing that energy to move through vibration, which is the crystal, into resonance, and that's our stem cells, right? So like, the energy moves through the crystal, gets changed like a filter, and then gets fed into our DNA, which is extrapolated from the genetic material, which is, you know, grown through stem cells, and that's resonance, right? So we've got vibration, and then stem cells are given instructions, and they grow based off of the commands given to it by whatever's vibrating. So that's where you get resonance. And then sympathetic harmony is like us visiting right now, all your sense organs and how you empathize with your environment. So that's your vibration, your resonance, or your sympathetic harmony. So like, vibration in a human body is the calcite microcrystals. And then the resonance is the body itself. And then sympathetic harmony is the wisdom we get by sharing that with other people. Even if you look at your fingerprints, right? Your fingerprints are just sound waves. And that's the outward projection from a vibrational constant that's being made inside the only thing that actually vibrates in the whole body is those calcite microcrystals. Everything else is stem cell resonance based off of DNA instruction sets and mitosis and cell reproduction and genetic mutations.
So you know what? I admit honestly that I have not looked into there's like a whole section of those 38 papers and stuff that went into this whole limbless control and limbless control of like drones and stuff, multiple control of, you know, they did all this tests on cognitive ability of humans to like how many different drone aircraft or remote control aircraft can they pilot and control at the same time without losing focus. And all these ways of using consciousness to, you know, trigger real world things, or basically like create this hive mind where you can be a controller for a whole hive of, you know, insectoid robots or drones or whatever have you. So I haven't looked deeply into that, but I wonder if they where did you hear about this information on this crystal structure in the pineal gland and this stuff? You know,
Literally my whole life, man. Like, when I was a little kid, I got these books on different martial arts, and one of the ones I ended up getting was a high level book on Tai Chi, which led me to learn about Dim Mak, like DAMMAK. And then I found out that the books that I've been searching about Tai Chi were derived from Qi Gong, which is like, you know, like there's like Kung Fu and there's like Kung Chi, right? And it's the way of is Kung, but then there's like the way of Qi. Qi is life energy. And then in China, they even use the word Qi to describe petroleum. That's like condensed life energy. And it was a driving force in my childhood. So like, other people had different hobbies and stuff. Mine was like computers, video games, and these books. And I would like study my mind, especially when I had all this free time, and grew up in like Mark Twain National Forest. So like, I was in the middle of nowhere and didn't have anybody to really run these ideas off of. And I felt really distant to everyone in my life until the people I'm with now. But I really can't express that enough, that a lot of these things were involuntary. You know, I had a near-death experience in my 20s where I almost internally decapitated myself in the university cafeteria, slipped and fell, and the back of my neck hit on a metal folding chair. And I looked down at the floor, and I could see like my body there. First, I was like in my eye walking around, and then I could see all my friends. I was standing above my friends, and they ended up trying to help me up from falling. I was having seizures from hitting my neck and shit, and like they were trying to help me up. And I remember the moment when I was like, "Oh shit, that's me!" Right, and then that moment, I like fell back into a hole. And it's what other people, I've never had one, but it's what other people have described to me being like a K-hole. It was devoid of all happiness and joy. It was just, but what was happening was while I
Describing
was,
like your first out of body experience, essentially. I've
well, it wasn't my first, but it was the most intense.
most intense. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, or
for sure.
near death experience, out of body experience, I should say.
Well, there was more, man. Like it didn't end there. Like I was like looking down at my body, and then I flew above the building. I could see the property, and then I saw the clouds, and then I could see like Missouri, not just Missouri, dude, but like the actual like up in the northwest and the north and like Indiana, and there's like cornfields. I could literally see some of the old money where like cold cornfields were overlapping the state lines where they didn't want it. They didn't care. They had so much money they didn't care about property taxes in two states, right? But most of the farms get split across property lines. I could literally see like the blurry property lines for the crop rotations up in northern Missouri where it switched to like Indiana to Missouri. And then I saw the planet come into view, the solar system come into view, and it just kept getting smaller and smaller until like all light from the entire universe disappeared. And I looked up, and there were these people standing there, the outlines of human figures, human shaped figures. And like I look around and I see them, and then I see like the painting of my grandparents that was hanging up on their wall, floating above as if like a visual metaphor to assess the situation. And then they ended up giving me a hug, and it was this feeling like it was my grandparents giving me this hug, right? So I went my life telling people this, trying to look for some type of truth, because it's really traumatic for a 20-year-old man. I never done any drugs or nothing, and like I had this crazy out of body experience happen, and it was so traumatic I couldn't talk to anybody about it. But then when I was up there, I could communicate, and we had new memories and new conversations. Like I was literally pulled out by the back of my head from the, and when the entire universe's light went away, I look up and there's my ancestors, right? And it led me to this knowledge, this crazy knowledge, in pursuit of those few hours that I was like in limbo with an actual turmoil. But I've been catching up to that my whole life, like 16 years of like just studying this shit. And one of my friends is like a Vietnam vet. He's one of my best friends. And I told him, he's like my dad's brother's friend, right? So this is like an extra uncle for me. It's like a family friend. I was telling him the story. He told me when he came back from Vietnam, and he took to drinking and almost died one time. And then he ended up from Vietnam. You know, they weren't well received when they got home. He was having a rough time when he came home from Vietnam, and he ended up getting drunk one time and crashed into a pole and like joined the volunteer firefighters as well. So like he ended up having this accident, and then he's described the same thing. He had his firefighter jacket on him, and he was like cussing his buddies because he was like, "Hey, get this asshole's blood off of my jacket," is what he's yelling to his buddies. And like he looks at the badge number and realized it was him in the jacket. It was his blood on the jacket, and he said the same thing happened to him, and he had been trying to tell people that story for so long. I said, Mike, like I'm just so upset, man. Like I've been trying to tell people this for 10 years. He's like, Slim, try 40. Like I've been telling people that for so long. I even forgot about talking about grandparents. He had the exact
so much
same.
for sharing this, man. It's amazing, and it's awesome to hear it because I myself have had some similar experiences in my life with my out of body, but it was through using psychedelics. I guess luckily I have not had life near death experiences so far, but I've also since been on YouTube and whatnot. I've had some other so-called PSD, but war vets share similar epiphanies and revelations that they've had in their lives since coming back from these war situations, and that exactly what you've described. They struggle, they isolate, they start using alcohol or substance abuses, get into the depression, and then would have these close near-death experiences, and then it's the epiphany crossing over to the spiritual Akashic conscious side of things, and realizing that seeing your soul or your spirits or your higher self and it being like, what the hell are you doing? And it's just like a restart. And I encourage more people and everybody to that has gone through these things to share them and discuss them, because we're the society that we have been taught and raised under has pressured us to think that this is crazy, this is insanity, there is no such truth, it's all YOLO, you only live once. But in fact, it's just a trick to try to enslave us and sacrifice or give up our own free will, because you do not know your own truth, because you have yet to experience it, because you're afraid of it or think that you're crazy, when in fact it seems to be the majority of people that have gone through these sort of experiences all have the same sort of exact experiences that are but just, and that you connect to that higher consciousness, and that for momentarily you understand the inner workings of the universe and can see it. But it's that the danger lies in getting connected or fully connected to it and losing yourself to it and never being able to pull your consciousness back down into your mind and body and it back into this reality. Or people that use drugs to get over it and substances instead of meditating and self awareness and development, they can end up getting addicted to the feeling of that realm, and then they get addicted to the drug and lose complete consciousness or self-awareness of what they are doing here, and that's how they start robbing and harming their own families and lives and self-destructive and whatnot. But it's there is this bridge to this alternate spiritual consciousness that yourself, your ancestors, and everyone else all exists in. But you just have to be comfortable with your own self and not living in your own cognitive dissonance. And once you're honest and accepting of who you are able to conquer out into the broader universe, it seems.
I
And
completely agree.
I think a good book for people to read would be David Kaiser's "How the Hippies Saved Physics." For anyone that wants to see how all this relates to what we're talking about here, back to the core, what I started with, the Manhattan Project and Manhattan Project 2.0. The guy who's actually running it is written about in this book and talked about in this book, apparently. So one of the quintessential quantum physicists and theoretical physicists who've Jack Sarfati. So check it out, and we'll talk about all these cool theories and all these cool scientists who came up with this stuff. It's quite a fun ride. It's been quite a fun ride, and I'm sure it's going to get even better, man. I didn't believe this stuff you guys are talking about, and I'm looking this up, and there's sure enough, electromechanical transducers and these pineal gland crystals, and fascinating stuff, guys.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I actually, to make more clear the point I was making earlier, that picture, when you are wanting to associate the senses with the chakras, if you think about where their frequencies are closest to, they're all vibrations, right? It has nothing to do. It's all the same shit. That's what I keep telling people I try to teach about this stuff. These are not different things. Your sciences in electrical engineering, your sciences in psychology, the periodic table, everything is made of consciousness moving at a slow vibration. Every single particle in existence is literally consciousness moving at different vibrations. It's like the old Bill Hicks quote, like,
I don't get it, man. How what is consciousness?
I love Bill Hicks.
Oh, dude,
But
death is a real, life is a dream, with the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather.
What is consciousness? Because that one's between each individual themselves and the universe. And
oh no, man, I think I got it figured out. If I could take a crack at that question, We are all born into this soup.
What is
And
energy?
this soup gave us consciousness. And consciousness is the highest vibration of all perceivable energy. And even when we were born, right? This will blow your minds. Even at the moment of our conception, when we're born, did you know that the energy in the sperm never actually touched the energy that's in the egg? That in this very moment in the future, past your conception, in this moment, you are realizing that the only thing holding you together right now is the love that brought you together. In your body, as you hear me speak right now, as you live and breathe, you are literally the love of your parents. And the particles never separated from your parents. They exist extra dimensionally and omnipresent. And those particles, you are literally your ancestors. Every ancestor, you are literally every ancestor you've ever had in this present moment. All split from the creator. Like whatever made.
Epigenetics is the actual science terminology of that now too, and the study of the conscious imprint into your DNA.
All right,
That's
now
I truly believe we're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively.
Oh, exactly. We're all fractals of higher dimensional existences and experiences.
Well,
that's why we're made in an image. It's like we're literally holograms, like shadows of eighth dimensional.
and a little too hippie for me too, man. So I'm about
Well,
let's
that's
wrap
true. We can draw
Yeah,
back.
it's just 2.5 hours.
Of that with the Science of Sound series, Jeremy, that I'm doing, that I'd like you to keep being a part of. The next episode, or as we develop it, is looking into these specific solfeggio frequencies that seem to also be the same frequencies of colors that are the chakras, and that we can now put into sound and music. Is that connecting the electrical science aspect engineers of it, and then how I'm bringing in also like vocalists, musicians, sound producer engineers on the music side, is that we'll can do experiments on each episode and topics, trying these different frequencies, and then create a similar theme to it, and then include it into the music, and then play it, put it out, and start running actual tests with these sacred and also what have been severely classified and secretive for so long. And it's deeper. It's just crazy rabbit hole the deeper it goes, but it's starting to come out. And why not put the real science to it by testing it and playing them and incorporating them?
All right. Well, anything final closing statements anyone wants to make? I want to thank was it Doug and what's the other guy's name? Your friend here, Quantum. Ryan and Doug, man, and Simon and Bernard. Thank Mark. Mark was here earlier too. I don't know where he dipped out at one point, and but yeah, guys, thank you all for coming on the show. Thank you, Nate Dogg, for the super chats. And everyone else who donated the super chats. I gotta go back and read them all off.
What was your contact information again? The email.
My contact info is thealienscientist@gmail.com. Yeah, make sure you guys get a hold of me there. I'll post that again right now.
Oh, I was muted. I love this live stream. It was awesome.
Yeah, this was a good discussion, man. I learned some really interesting new stuff that I'll have to dig into. Sure, hours of
always hours of education. Yeah, I love it, my friend. Just pasted my YouTube channel in the private chat. Would you mind just sharing it in the live chat for me, Jeremy?
Yeah. Where is that? This is your YouTube channel. Oh yeah. Let's
Yes, sir. I thank you. There's also ridiculous.
Crypto, you're gonna do this experiment too. You should set up something and have it like just live streaming constantly before, during, and after the eclipse, and see if You know, just have a couple of them set up. You know,
That's what I'm hoping to do, and part of the plan. And I also encourage anyone else that has the time or equipment to try to do the same thing, so we can get several different viewpoints and data points to start actually doing real research and science and documentation into what the ancient civilizations seem to have as one of their highest priorities of architecture and buildings. So it's a brand new age that we are all living in and going into. So let's get out to that universe and make these discoveries together.
Yes, let's promote the new atomic like atomic technology. Let's talk about the benefits of it, you know, like what it can be used for good. You know, the military obviously wants to build weapons with it and next generation aircraft and stealth fighters and all kinds of stuff, but I think you know, if we'd rather build this stuff to save humanity and to help humanity and benefit all of humanity rather than you know, just have military superiority over our other nations on this tiny little blue planet of crap that we're fighting over. We can go out and mine asteroids that are worth trillions of dollars, and we can build boundaries and manufacturing plants in space that, you know, we can get the largest diamonds in the world, and who knows what else. So all the things that we take as riches and luxuries and pleasures on this planet are nothing compared to what we'll have in the humanity will have in the future if we can all cooperate and work together.
Ascend into a new golden age for abundance for everybody, instead of stop being a suicidal race that we keep killing ourselves. It's insanity. It's time to evolve and move up and build together.
Yes. Prove you're better than bacteria. Thank you. Have a good night.